In our digital world, there is something very satisfying about going old school. Rather than using your ebook, there's something very nice about cracking the spine of a real book and using a real bookmark. So today I want to show you how I made these watercolour bookmarks inspired by Van Gogh's Starry Night. My name's Liz Chaderton. I'm a watercolour artist based in Berkshire. Every week I share a tip, trick or technique I wish I'd known about ages ago. And this week it's using watercolour to make bookmarks. This project was inspired after I got this limited edition set of colour sheets from Viviva sent to me. They are Van Gogh's Starry Night, and I thought, wow, what can I do? I don't just want to repaint his painting. And I thought, oh, bookmarks inspired by this wonderful painting. If you enjoy these bookmarks, I've got lots of other watercolour bookmark ideas. In fact, there's a whole playlist, so do take a look at those. Before we do anything, let's take a quick look at the colours that are included. So this is a special edition. Once they're gone, they're gone. And there's 16 colours in here. If you haven't seen the Viviva colour sheets before, they really are lovely. They're very vibrant. They are dye based, so they will not be light fast. They're not going to fade overnight in any shape or form, but they're more for sketchbook, for fun, rather than for artwork that's going to hang on the walls of a museum. That was Crimson and Dusk Orange. I would always recommend just swatching them out. You can see I'm just putting a little colour swatch over the name, and that is simply because, well, there, yellow ochre is a good one to look for. Looks really brown, actually is a beautiful yellow. They've got these glassine sheets between the pages so they won't stick together, which of course is good. And the colours in this set have been chosen so that you don't have to do any mixing if you want to paint your own version of Van Gogh's Starry Night. There's all sorts of beautiful blues. That's ocean blue. And we've got midnight blue. Oh, that's yummy. Look how dark it is when it's dry, and then beautiful, almost Prussian blue. Indigo blue. Oh, that's quite purpley. That's lovely. Persian blue. Look, it's got a sort of shiny pink to it. And then look at that colour. Yum. And then there's two metallics, silver and the gold. I used this gold lots when I was in Mexico. No, rubbish. When we were in Costa Rica, there is a gold museum in San Jose, the capital. So I used it then. I don't think I've ever seen white in one of their sets before. This slate black is nice because it's not black, it is a quite transparent black. And then at the end, again, if you haven't seen these before, there's a little fold out piece, and this is specially coated so that you can mix your colours and then wipe it clean. So you've actually got a little palette. You can fold it out like this, flip through, mix your colours, and it's just a really nicely thought out book. So those are the colours, and when you've been through, how I dry mine before I put it away is just stand it on the side like that, so the pages are splayed out and it can all dry. But if you have to put it away wet, don't worry, because say nothing will stick together because you've got those little glassine sheets. Right, let's get on with some artwork inspired by Starry Night. I thought a great way of testing these colours would be to make some little bookmarks, because they're a no pressure way of doing a new technique or trying something new, because if it goes wrong, you've only lost a tiny piece of paper. And these pieces of paper are, just in case you're wondering, 5.5 centimetres by 18 centimetres. So the first one I am going to just do a night landscape. So I'm going to start with stripes of paint. Let's put a little black to get it really midnighty. So I used a bit of midnight blue and then a bit of slate black. It's just going to be a sort of slightly abstracted landscape. I'm doing stripes across, and in the distance maybe they're a little bit smaller, cooler, and then coming towards us I might do something a bit warmer and just change things up. So I'm leaving tiny little lines of white between the stripes, but if they touch, like as there, I rather like it, so I might deliberately let some of that touch. That is the Persian blue. Oh, interesting. And that indigo blue, I thought there was quite a lot of pink in it when I was swatching it out, and that's really coming through there as it's coming into this swatch. Might go back to a bit of midnight blue and do some vertical lines here. This is just an imagined landscape. Go back in and put in little drops of water to introduce some texture. Let's grab some of that midnight blue and just put a bit of a wash over the top. Now, what might be quite fun on one of these is to do something a lot more inspired by Starry Night. My iPad here, I've got a download of it. I am going to do a sort of slice, maybe with that wonderful tree, or my interpretation of it, in the foreground, and then like one of the stars, two of the stars, and then sort of swirls. It's a very loose interpretation using this very lurid ocean blue. I'll need to leave the stars white, soften off those edges where they come into the starlight. Colour do we think the background? Maybe the tree bark brown, that would be it. Put a background colour in here. Van Gogh's picture was painted in oils, and these are obviously watercolours, but that does not matter one iota. We introduce a little bit of green. What yellows have they given us? Happy yellow, possibly a little ironic given how unhappy poor Van Gogh was. Just some yellow, a bit of yellow ochre as well. Spread that out. I don't want the sky to go green really. That's sort of my underwash. Our little underpaintings are well and truly dry now. And you can see on these two, I've done the next layer of mark. This is what we're aiming for. On our first, it's a little abstract slice of landscape. So what you do totally depends on what marks you've got, and just use your imagination. If you've got some interesting marks, say like these, That's crying out to be a hedgerow, I feel. So I'm using a little waterproof fine liner. It's a 0.5. Then I've got this mark along here. So I might outline that. And then say I might make that into a bank of trees. Just put in some branches and trunks and something like that. And this is just where you can let your imagination go for a little wander. What do things look like? Think about the landscape and just have a little bit of fun. It is, in fact, what I would call a posh doodle. You're just enjoying letting your pen go for a wander and see what comes out. So I've got a bank of trees there. I've got my little hedge. Oh, I've got another hedge here. So I'm going to outline that. And then this could be I don't know, a ploughed field, couldn't it? So I could do some furrows, sort of making each little slice a bit different. Remember that at the bottom it's closest to you, so you might want to put the most detail there or thicker lines, and further away there might be less detail and thinner lines. You can see here I put in a little house and fence. You could do that. If you're not a house and a fence person, don't. Might just break up this space. That'd be quite fun. If you want, grab an acrylic marker, something nice and opaque, and I can put a moon in, a nice full moon. Put some stones in this field, maybe. A thin brush, and of course there is white in here, so why don't we do that? Let's just see how opaque this white is. See how steady my hand is or not. That's not bad, is it? Nothing has to be perfect. You could layer over things. So say, let's have a look. Ooh, grab a little of that midnight blue. Nothing, not too thick. And I could just go over those little wedges that I've drawn. So that could be quite fun. It breaks it up again. I want to, I could maybe just put a little bit more variation into those trees that I created. What else should we do? Oh, it's meant to be Starry Night, so let's put a few stars in the sky. And I could put a little bit here. Quite fancy some dots somewhere. So I've gone back to my little pen, but I could totally do this with the brush and the white as well. Now, if we come to this, if you remember, I'm not sure how this will show up, but it's the slice with the tree and a few of the swirls. So the edges went fuzzy because I was impatient, if you remember, but that's okay. I'm just going to get rid of as much of those little pencil lines as I can. And then I'm using a finish brush, and I'm going to start, because watercolour is transparent, I'm going to start with the lighter blue and start building up some of that swirly whirly sky. Another little swirl here. So it's just little marks following the contours of the stars in the sky. And we're going to build those up. Notice how towards the horizon they become paler and maybe a little grayer. So I might have to use my little mixing palette, add some extra water, and just do like that. We'll let that layer dry and then we can come back and do more layers. So the trees, if I look, are really dark in the painting. So I reckon we should use tree bark, I can't say that word, tree bark brown. And here we're going to build up. Maybe this is slightly longer. This will be a way of getting rid of those fuzzy edges. I'll put a little bit of green, a few green marks in here as well. Vary some of those. Actually, that's quite nice actually. Oh yeah, that's better. Look, if I vary my mark. So let's see if we can smush some of these together, and that just makes it different from the marks in the sky. So on this little one that I did a slice out of it, I really wish I'd done the church that you can see in Starry Night, because that's the most distinct building, but I didn't, so I just did some pretend little houses. If I did it again, I think I would choose the slice with that. Just need to dry this because otherwise we will get fuzzy marks, and Van Gogh's marks definitely weren't fuzzy. Let's grab that slate grey and do more of these longer marks. See if I'm just trying to capture a little bit of the light as well, and they can just all overlap. It's the strangest tree, but frankly, so's the tree in Starry Night, so that's fine. It's just building up layers and layers and layers of these marks. Right, let's do some work on our stars. So see how well this white's going to work. Start with little marks to see whether I can do it with the white from the kit, or whether I might end up resorting to a white gel pen or my white acrylic marker. Actually, that's not bad, is it? I don't like the green where the yellow and the blue has mixed particularly, so let's just cover those up where the moonlight or the starlight might be hitting. That's better, isn't it? Just breaks that up. We grab some midnight blue and start layering and layering and layering. The good thing about this little kit, or not kit, what would you do, the colour sheets, you've got all the colours, all the different blues and colours that you might need, which is rather fun. Let's go for Persian blue. So I'm going to give that a good shake. Then say, you could so do this with the kit. I'm just being a little impatient. Right, and then probably my final lead, which will just blend a few bits in. So now we need to finish them, and this is the fun bit. We can take our masking tape off. If you find by any chance that it's sticking to your paper, just warm it with your hairdryer, and that will loosen the glue and make it a lot easier to remove. Take it off gently, pulling it away from the paper. Don't just rip it off like a plaster, and that will minimise the chance of it tearing. There you go. I like to round off the corners. Now, I've got this little punch and it just rounds off the corners. If you haven't got one, it is totally unnecessary, but entirely up to you if you happen to have one. Then again, this is up to you. I have got this lovely collection of very gorgeous tassels. I do love a tassel because they're just such pretty colours. So it's a case of choosing one that you like. I could go for yellow with that because it's lovely against those blues, or go for a darker blue. I have got black, but I think that's a little harsh. And you could go for a silvery grey. So you can buy these tassels very, very cheaply online. I think they cost about 5p each if you buy a collection of them. No, I think that's too purple. Sorry. So I'll put a link to those in the description. If you haven't got tassels, you could use a bit of thin ribbon, or you don't need them at all. But I just think a tassel does finish it off rather nicely. So I've got a hole punch. If you've just got a normal double hole punch, that's fine. Just go careful where you punch the hole. Make sure you get it sort of centrally. Put in the punch, and then we can thread that through. And actually, before I put that one on, what I do need to show you is finishing these. I always like to seal my bookmarks because the danger is your book gets wet, you're reading it in the bath, it gets wet, and all the watercolour will come off and go onto the pages, or indeed you're reading in the rain. So there's lots of ways of doing it. You could just spray it with varnish, you can laminate these, etc. But I like them as they are, and I like to wax them. So this is furniture wax. It is clear furniture wax designed to go over chalk paint. And it's just a paste. Get that on my fingers. It's odorless. Oh, it says virtually odorless, which I know is important to a lot of people. And all you do is rub it into the surface when this is totally dry. It should not smear the watercolour because this is wax, there is no water in the wax, and watercolour is water soluble, not wax soluble. We put that on, just a thin layer, and we'll let it dry, and then we can buff it. I do the back as well, just to give it all-round protection. And then once it is dry, which just depends on your atmosphere, for a thin layer like this, it's probably only going to be an hour, and you'll know when it's dry because it won't come off on your fingers anymore. And I will take my tassel off so I don't get wax on the tassel. But the nice thing about it is slightly deepens the colour and enriches the colour. I really like that. Do make sure you're finished though, because if you suddenly said, oh, I want to do another layer, your watercolour will not go over the wax. The wax will repel water. That's the whole point. It's waterproofing, and it will repel your watercolours. Once the wax is dry, you take a lint-free cloth and then you can gently buff the surface. And if I hold it up and just wiggle it a little, I hope you can see there's a slight shine to it, a sheen rather than a shine. And that is all protected. You can now, well, I wouldn't actually drop it in your bath, but certainly that colour should not come off on the pages of your precious books. And there we go, 4 little bookmarks inspired by Van Gogh's Starry Night. 2 very obviously and 2 not quite as obviously. If you're interested in the little kit, there's a link in the description, and there is a playlist with lots and lots and lots of other watercolour bookmark ideas.